Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Liz and this is Let's Get Lizicle, where we do everything card making. And today we're going to do a fun card. I already have everything cut out and ready. So this is kind of like what we're planning to do. I have a card base in 110-pound black cardstock from Michaels. I did my Hammermill cardstock in the white, of course, with the deckled edge frames from Honeybee. These are the digitally printed options for my stamp set, which is now available in my Etsy shop. I will also move my physical products to there in the next couple weeks. But right now the digital copies are available and they're like a third of the price. The one thing I like about digital stamps is when you print them, the lines don't bleed, so they're a bit thinner than they are on a stamped image, because when you stamp on paper, it kind of like, this is a different image, but it kind of bleeds out just like a little bit, so it makes the lines a bit thicker. And I probably should have like mirrored some of these like skulls and stuff just so I could pile them around, but we're gonna leave them as is. I cut a whole bunch of these for a card workshop that I did for the office this week, and it was super quick and easy. I did like a full 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper of just ghosts, so I have tons of ghosts left over because it was like a smaller group that ended up showing up. So I have a ton of them on hand now and can just color them in. No bleeding or anything, no need for double stamping, which is great, which is another benefit to doing the digital stamps, because the alcohol markers don't make the ink bleed on these. I also cut the cauldron out from, I think it's day 12. Yes, day 12 of the 13 Days of Craftoween. And I'm probably going to end up stamping, or I'll just use one of these, maybe on the inside, we'll see. But yeah, so I am going to ink blend this background, kind of in greens to match this. These little bubbles I cut out of colored cardstock. This one is the same colored cardstock as this one, but I added some alcohol ink to it with my markers just to give it another dimension, because I didn't have another green that kind of went with this assortment. And on the image it shows that there's 5 colors, so we'll do the 5. And yeah, so I will switch over to voiceover so that I can listen to my music and you guys can watch me play. Back again, voiceover Liz here. So I will announce the winners for the giveaway at the end of this video, towards the end of the video anyway. So stay tuned for that. But for now, you can watch me ink blend the back panel. I wanted to make sure I did this first because I'm going to be splattering water and ink on this afterwards, just for more texture in the background. Just because my images are kind of going to float there, so I like to do that textured background when I do that type of image. Like there's nothing that kind of grounds this image. Maybe the pumpkin and the skull a little bit, it adds a bit of a ground, but yeah, so we're going to ink blend first. I'm going to splatter this with some water using my Distress sprayer. And I also try using some black soot distress ink, but that doesn't turn out as dark as I want it to. So I end up using just the straight up like black licorice ink that I usually use to stamp my images from Lawn Fawn, and that gave me some like good black splatter. I would definitely do that again, and maybe use my splat box instead of doing it this way, because right now I'm making a hot mess on my desk. I cut out the part where I clean up the desk, but it took me a minute. I should use my splat box. I bought it for a reason. But it's just like in the opposite corner in the room and I didn't want to grab it. So again, just me being lazy. But next time I will try to use my splat box, because this here is probably what made most mess, because I use a finer brush. So there's a bit more like splatter all over the place once I move the mat. But yeah, so next time I will try to remember or be less lazy and use my splat box. But yeah, so I'm gonna assemble the cauldron. This is again from day 12 of the 13 Days of Craftoween from Spellbinders. I wanted to mix and match my supplies. I don't think I have a big cauldron like this in any of my stamp sets. I have a smaller one from Sunny Studios that had like a little cat with it and a witch hat for the cat, but it's just like way too small for these ghosts, and I thought that this was the perfect size. Maybe I can do like a different type of cauldron for a digital stamp at one point, but for now I'm just, you know, mixing my dies with my stamps. I know some people don't like to do that, but I don't have a problem with mixing and matching my stuff. I know some people don't like to use dies where they have like ones that are stitched and ones that are not. They prefer one or the other on a card. They don't like to mix and match that. Again, that also doesn't bother me. So again, I like to mix and match. That's what I do. It's not necessarily what everybody else does or what everybody else is into. But you do you, of course. If you have a stamped cauldron, you can definitely use it with these, or vice versa. If you have ghosts that are dies that go along with this cauldron, then you can also do that. You could use the one from, I think it's day 3 or 4, the ghost. It's a little bit bigger though, and I probably wouldn't put more than one on with the cauldron. But this one I wanted to create a bit of a scene of these like 3 ghosts, and it actually like works out perfect because it's kind of like they're all making some kind of potion, and then the one on the left is kind of like, ooh, is it okay? Is it ready yet? The one in the back is like, oh my god, what are you guys doing? The one on the side is just kind of like derpy and like, I don't know what's going on, like scatterbrained. Like if you pictured these 3 ghosts as like the hyenas from The Lion King, like they each have their own personality and their own roles, like this is the kind of set that I put together with these ghosts in a sense. And it just kind of worked out that way because when I sketched the ghosts, I was like, these are the 3 that I liked best. And then they can create stories with their expressions, which isn't too much, but it's more about their body movement, and just like the way that they flow together. So, you know, happy accident. But anyway, so I assembled the cauldron, I put the bubbles in, I trimmed the back of it just because I didn't want the bubbles to be part of that lip. I think next time I would probably just cut this so that it kind of blended into the side a bit, because it doesn't need to be the full oval. And I don't know why it was set up that way. It's probably easier to cut, but I would prefer just like a, you know, a smiley face kind of shape for the front lip of the cauldron. I think it would be a little bit better than the full oval, but that's just me. I like my things to be on somewhat similar planes, so like that's why I cut 2 layers of the oval for the top of the cauldron, like the opening, because I wanted 2 of the bubbles to, you know, line up with that, and then the other 2 would be on top bubbling outside, if that makes sense. So that's why I try to like alter my dies as needed, for different, you know, layering ideas. And then for the ghosts and the skulls, I added some green highlights like I did when I did the tags, just because it gives off that green glow that the cauldron is giving off, like from the bubbles and stuff. So it's almost like it has its own glow, and it's creating this cast shadow on the ghosts where it's, you know, a little bit green. And I think that like helps bring the scene together, helps make the ghost part of the scene and not just like they're kind of there. Again, if that makes sense. But it's a good way just to add a little bit of like ambient lighting and stuff like that. Apologies also if you hear some voices in the background, because some people don't know how to be quiet when I'm filming. Well, not while I'm filming, while I'm doing my voiceover. When I'm filming, my music is going now, which is why I do voiceovers, so I can mute the video and then do that after. But anyway, yeah, so I'm just gonna do very minimal coloring on the ghosts. Again, it's just shading here and there. I did a warm gray for the opposite sides there. I did the green, and then anything like their arms where it would be a little bit more of an overlap on a regular person. Obviously a ghost probably doesn't have that much shading through them, but that's just the way I was doing it here. I'm going to also shade this one skull. I ended up using 1 and not the 2. If I was going to do this card again, I might set up the digital file so that there's like a pile of skulls and then maybe a couple more pumpkins or something. And then for the inside of the pumpkin, I also wanted this to have a green glow because I wanted to fit in the scene and I didn't want it to look out of place. Like the pumpkin's already going to be orange. I tried to go with a darker orange so that it didn't become too much of a stark contrast, because like most of the time when I do my pumpkins are pretty bright oranges. So I did try to tone it down a little bit. I used a lighter brownish orange color to do the shading. And then I used the darker shade that I usually shade with, and then colored the rest of the pumpkin in that. I really liked the way the green glow turned out on this. It was just like something, again, fun and exciting, something a little bit new, and then something that coordinated with the scene and it didn't contrast, because normally I would do this in like a yellow or just color it straight up in the black. Normally I liked my pumpkins to look like they're lit up though, so this one he's just kind of like there and happy about whatever's going on here, the party around the cauldron. But yeah, so I'm just gonna glue down the skull on the paper, and then I'm gonna prop this guy up on some foam tape and glue him to the cauldron. And this card is fairly thick because I did use like a thin layer of foam tape for the matting layer and then another layer of thicker foam tape for the accessories. So like the cauldron I propped up, the ghost on the right I propped up, and then the pumpkin I propped up because those two were glued to the cauldron. And then I decided that I wanted to color the edges in because it was too much white and I didn't really want those borders there. I actually digitally printed these, but I also used my dies on them because they coordinate with the size. I kept them the same size, and then you can alter them to whatever size you want with the digital stamp, but these ones I kept the original size and they do work with the dies that way. So instead of fussy cutting around these, which I should have just done because they're simple enough to cut out, but I ended up coloring around each of them instead. And then I'm going to add that happy haunting sentiment that I had already stamped out in my pouch. I am also going to add some black gems to this just to add a little bit of sparkle to it, and off camera I ended up adding some white highlights. I added them to the pumpkin here, but then I colored over them in the green just to give it that, you know, ambient light again, but I didn't like the way it looked and the pumpkin didn't quite stand out the way I wanted it to. It kind of just gets lost there. But yeah, so I went over it again on the highlights. I added highlights to the cauldron and the bubbles, and you'll see that in the end photo. And now I will announce the winners for my giveaway. And originally I had filmed the process of doing the wheel and everything, but then I accidentally deleted it before I saved it. So the winners are KLP Grim. You will get the Christmas set because the other winner is Yvonne, and she did give me some of those pattern papers that I included in there. I kept a set for myself, but I also included a set for the next person, so I don't think she wants that back. Yvonne, you won the summer set. So if you can both just email me at letsgetlizicle@outlook.com. KLP Grim, you'll have to give me your shipping information, contact number, and whatnot, and I will ship out the packages next week. Yvonne, just let me know if you want the package or if you want me to do the redraw. You already have my email and everything, so we'll just do that. And even if you just want a picture of what's in it before you decide, let me know. I'll just send you a photo. But anyway, so yes, thank you again for participating in the giveaway, everyone. I appreciate it so much, and thank you so much for watching that video and all of my other videos, and I'm very, very thankful for all of you that join me here week after week, sometimes multiple times a week, and those of you that catch up on videos sometimes throughout the month, and just binge watch. Any little bit helps, and again, I love to show you guys my ideas, tips, and tricks, and help you get inspired for your own projects. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below, and let me know your thoughts. And until next time, thanks guys, bye.